basically her entire re-election campaign on removing the bike lanes, and she lost. And I'm not saying she lost because she was against the bike lanes, but I think it's a good example, and this is a theme that'll come up today, is that folks are tired of this nonsense, this culture war over bike lanes, and I think they want elected officials to focus on other things and move forward once decisions have been made, especially when it's life-saving infrastructure like bike lanes. Anywho, so we won. Great. Province appealed. Boo. That happened back in January of 2026 this year. And then 2 weeks ago, is it 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, about 2 weeks ago now, we finally got that decision, and it was unanimous. The appeals court basically overruled Justice Seamus. So as of this moment, Bill 212 is back to being legislation. As of this moment, the province does have the power to reconfigure the lanes on Bloor-Young University to restore a lane of travel. We've heard some good comments recently from Mayor Chow. If I can be honest, she's being a bit older on this, which is good to see, if you're in favor of cycling. In terms of what's going to happen next, we don't know. Again, I think something that is important to keep in mind is that these are very complicated transportation projects. It's not just a matter of going out there and scrubbing some lines and removing some curbs and everything's back to normal again. If you saw these bike lanes being built, you would have seen that there was lots of construction equipment, lots of lines being scrubbed, being removed, and then certainly in a lot of these sections too, when they were built with these quick build materials, often the city's doing reconfigurations as well. So they're looking at traffic impacts, they're adjusting lights, they're adding new turning lanes, they're adding new accessible parking, and so all of this needs to be re-engineered. So we don't have a clear timeline of when that's going to happen, but again. The bike lanes are back in the municipal election anyways because, again, another candidate for mayor has also pledged to remove them on board. So that's kind of where we are. Central Toronto is not done. We're still committed to fighting and protecting every meter of these bike lanes. Again, these are bike lanes that were approved by City Council. In the case of the Bloor extensions, these have been voted on by City Council now 4 times under 2 different mayors. So at a certain point, it's can we please move on and focus on other things other than these bike lanes on Bloor, especially when, as we know, bike lanes do not cause traffic congestion, and this is life-saving infrastructure. If anyone has any quick questions, happy to address, but again, I'll reiterate, we don't know if we're appealing yet. That's the other one. We don't know what's happening next on this. It's still a lot of unknowns. Our lawyers are still reviewing the decision. It is a complicated legal judgment, so reviewing next steps that way, but that's kind of where we are right now. And again, definitely from our perspective, the fight isn't over, and this has always been a political battle. One of our lawyers said at the beginning of this, again, Andrew Lewis was a very esteemed partner with Paul Rowland, told us right at the beginning, the courts will not save you. Ultimately, this is a political decision. And again, that's kind of a key theme here with the municipal election as well, is ensuring we'll elect a city council that sort of hears from folks like you and knows that cycling really is a priority. So, David, has a question? Yeah.
What does reconfigure mean?
Don't know. So there was a section on Bloor West, the westernmost section of Bloor between Kipling and Islington, where after we got the decision, the province moved ahead with basically restoring 1 lane of traffic by narrowing the bike lane a little bit, but keeping the protected nature of the bike lane. So this is something that Mayor Chow has kind of said she's looking to try to do. It's where can they find compromises, where can they reconfigure and keep the protected nature of the bike lanes. Some sections of Bloor-Young University, it's easier than others. Certainly Bloor through the annex, for example, east of us, it's very narrow. There would be no way to do it there. In fact, the north part of Bloor through that section isn't even protected at all. It's just a strip of paint. And then some of the projects are potentially feasible, like Bloor through the Kingsway, for instance, but it might involve a massive road reconstruction problem where the central median itself might have to be readjusted to accommodate it. And again, all these bike lanes were approved by City Council through public consultations. A lot of the, where there's parking or loading zones or turning lanes, a lot of that came from feedback through those consultations. So even if the Premier goes ahead and says he's got a mandate to do this and the court lets him do it, it's still overriding local democracy. Again, better if it keeps the protected nature of the bike lanes And I think too, even the way we're looking at this with the Premier and the recent walk bike lanes on Eglinton, which are able to happen right now. Here in Parkside High Park, the Parkside Drive bike lanes were supposed to happen. That didn't happen as well because of Bill 60. The way we're looking at this too is, yes, we're fighting in the short term, but ultimately, Premier Ford will not be Premier forever, and the future of Toronto does have bike lanes. So even this is something we're talking to candidates around too, is when Bill 60 and Bill 212 are repealed and amended, are you also committed to building back any meter of bike lanes that the province has removed? So yes, we're fighting in the short term. Yes, we don't want anything removed, but we're also thinking about this long term too, that even if the worst thing happens, we'll just build it back. Yep.
So has anyone filed a freedom of information to find out how much tax money has been wasted on these two court challenges?
We have quite a few FOI requests that are in that we're getting a lot of excuses as to why they can't release things, and then we appeal and it comes back to us again. So, and I know a lot of journalists are trying to do so. Cool. Thanks everyone. We will. Thanks. Sorry, I get to not talk about the next stuff, so I'm just trying to transition all this.
The session was that Michael could not speak for 90 minutes, so that's why I'm talking a lot for this one. So we've been talking a lot about the province right now and what the province's impact on municipal issues, aka cycling. So this brings us back to why we're gathered here. Why a municipal election town hall about cycling when the province is doing a lot of meddling in cycling? Well, it turns out, as Michael has already mentioned, the provincial government that is put in place, it's not going to be here forever. And more importantly, in the short term, there's still a lot of stuff we can do to make, and our municipal elected officials can do to make cycling better in the city for us right now. Make it, including upgrading quick builds from flexi posts and things like that to permanent concrete barriers so more people feel safe biking on our main arteries like Bloor. Having a city council in place that is willing to commit to rebuilding back what might be removed / committing to building the bike lanes that have been put on pause. In terms of maintenance, the municipal candidates are also in control of making sure that all bike lanes are maintained at all times. That means like having a contingency plan when there's construction so cyclists can always get around safely, and also pedestrians. And then also with winter clearing, making sure that our bike lanes are, especially the big arterial ones, are actually cleared within that 24-hour period after a snowfall. So there's still basically a ton of stuff. Michael, you're going to be on slideshow duty again. So basically there's still a ton of stuff that our elected officials can do. Okay. So basically, first of all, who here has signed the Defend Bloor petition? Raise your hand. Oh, I hear some no's in the crowd. If you haven't already signed it, CSJs, raise your hand. Our great summer students, Dawson, Layla, and Ryan, can tell you more about it. But basically, that's been one of our summer campaigns, which actually Dawson and Layla come up. They'll be telling us, just Dawson? Okay, well, telling us what they've put on the street and what they've been working on, and a little bit about this Defend Bloor petition that I just mentioned.
So this summer, me and, as we just pointed out, Layla and Ryan back there, we've been out on the front lines of the cycle infrastructure in the suburbs because, as you guys know, this is where there isn't a lot of cycle infrastructure, and that's where a lot of the danger is in having it taken away. And we've been going and gathering petitioning and also getting people's views on cycling and seeing what the temperature is. Obviously, we've encountered a lot of support, a lot of people who use it every day. Some people who say that, I just didn't bike before that existed, and now I do bike. We've also encountered, some strong opposition, some cyclists who feel like, they don't need it. But I think like a large majority is people who are mostly just confused. They were confused as to why this is even an issue. And they just thought they should have them, and like, why are we even talking about this? Like, and then a lot of them are like, yeah, I would bike, but it's just kind of dangerous on the main streets. And I think like, when you talk about things like a silent majority, like those are the types of people's voices that we want to be heard at City Hall and around the city. The people who are just like, yeah, like obviously I want to bike safely, like there's no, like what are we doing? And so that's like a big, and then there's also like non-bikers who, they support the benefits of like, it being safer, cars going less fast. But yeah, in general, there's just a lot of people who are like, yeah, like why are we even doing this? Let's just put them in. And I think that's part of what's important to like, yeah, uplift their voices, and also to say like, look, it's not just like professional, cyclists that can get out there. It's obviously everyone, and that's part of what we want to do is make it inclusive for everyone.
Now I'm going to do a bit of a disclaimer for everyone in the room. Many of the candidates have already heard this, but Cycle Toronto is a registered charity, and we are a non-partisan organization. We technically do not endorse anyone. However, we did invite all the candidates who are in this ward, Parkdale-High Park, since it is a very open competitive seat, just to say 2 minutes max, because we're running a little bit behind on time, their thoughts on cycling and things like that in their ward. So I think just based on time and people who I know have time restrictions, I'm going to let Nadia speak first. Oh yes, wait, actually I'll introduce everyone who's here. So the councillor candidates who are here for Parkdale-High Park are Nadia Guerrera, which, please turn your hands over to you. Debbie King. Diana Chen-McNally. Vanessa Raponi. Holly Weber.
Bridget Ogundepe.
Oh, Bridget Ogundepe. Oh, I didn't
I'm sure.
Yes. So we are.
And Adam Fett.
Oh yes, and Adam Fett. Oh my gosh, sorry. Yeah. So we have a full house here today. But just based on who I have heard has very specific time requirements, I'm going to let Nadia speak first, just because.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you. So full disclosure, it's my wife's birthday, and it's a milestone birthday. So if I don't get to dinner, I am going to be at the doghouse. But anyway, nice to meet you. I'm Nadia Guerrera. I'm running to be our next city councilor here in Ward 4. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out around this really important issue. Thanks, Cycle Toronto, for arranging this. To all the other candidates for also knowing that this is an important issue, and of course for the Swansea Town Hall for hosting this. So my background is that I've basically served community for my whole professional career. I was a teacher in 3 local schools, and throughout my career kind of brought people together around big projects. And was able to make some pretty significant change happen. I wrote curriculum that's taught across this country. I brought government and community health leaders in this area together to get funding for 200 long-term care beds, which we currently have, and launched a research center in social innovation research. I didn't do any of that alone. I did it by building coalitions, and I feel like that's what's happening here in this room, so that's amazing. One other thing I got to do was actually run, and I'm really proud of this, for provincial office. And just last year I ran against the Ford government, because I don't like the way they overreach, and I don't like many of the decisions that they make. And I was also able to run in 2018 under Kathleen Wynne's government, and that's the government that made historic investments in cycling infrastructure. It brought forward the first cycling plan for the province in 20 years, and made $125 million in investments across Ontario to build cycling infrastructure. 25 million of those dollars came to Toronto to build the cycling infrastructure that we're speaking about today, including, can everybody hear me back there, by the way? Yes.
Including the bike lanes on Bloor, which are
so contentious for some reason today. So I'm really proud of that. I also today received the endorsement of the minister that actually secured that funding. Her name is Eleanor McMahon. She started the Share the Road Cycling Coalition. Thank you. So I'm very, very proud of that. So that's kind of looking backwards. Looking forward, what we know is that more and more people are choosing to cycle in our city. You know, it's affordable. It's often the fastest way to get around our city. It's great for your physical and mental health, right? And so cycling infrastructure saves lives, period. Am I talking too long?
You get 10 more seconds.
Okay, listen, I think we need to build cycling networks. I support the bike cycling infrastructure on Bloor. I think we keep it, we improve it, we keep growing, because at the end of the day, we're all just people trying to get home. And my job as a city councilor is going to make sure that that happens by supporting every road user and ensuring that we're building out networks going forward. Sorry, it felt like it was going to be longer than that. I have a lot more to say, but thank you.
We are now going alphabetical by first name, so Adam, you are up. I will put the timer on, so when you hear the ringing.
It's just like the Oscars.
Yeah.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today, and thank you for coming out. So my name is Adam Pham. I am independent candidate for parkdale-high. Why I'm independent? Because I think that so this is the best way to learn from everyone. Everything good for neighborhood and you do it online. So the first bike I bought is here in Canada for $5 only from Russia 26 years ago. And I used it for 3 years to learn English, buy grocery and walking. This is the because of that I am fairly the bike user. But I think that we need to learn from Tokyo. The 36 million people city, and they use few million bikes in this city, and they organize it globally. So I think that Toronto have a lot of potential to do the same thing, but we need to do it globally because in society we have a different issue. We need to have the way to do that so everyone has their share. So for example, in Toronto, I believe that the most important thing is affordable living and safer neighborhood. This is I'm running for. Why affordable? Because I saw that the older generation is pushing out from our neighborhood. And the younger generation could not repeat their parents' story. And they could not stay there to be a middle class. You see many areas, they call the Toronto people the Toronto refugee. Because the people could not stay there. They need to move to Alberta, to North, everywhere. So this is the thing I'm fighting for. The first thing is affordable. To make life affordable for everyone. For young, for old. This is the thing I'm fighting for. And this is the bike, it's one way to make life more affordable. And the second thing I'm fighting for safe neighborhood. We need to have a safer neighborhood. Because when I came here 25 years ago, 26 years ago, the people told me that we don't need to lock the door. Because we are very safe neighborhood. And right now you see that. Even you put the flyer at the door, people ask you to put inside the lockbox or inside the port. Because there's something happened. If they see that, somebody not home. So we need to improve that. We need to, the city of Toronto need to be a safe neighborhood, is in my opinion. So how to do it? I think that I want more. Okay. So the good thing is that we have a lot of things to learn from everywhere. I live in 6 countries and traveling in 70 countries in the world. I think a lot of things we can learn from Singapore, from Tokyo, from Seoul, from Poland, from everywhere to apply to Toronto to make our neighborhood a better place to live. Thank you very much.
That's great. And Bridget, you are up.
And I'm the city council candidate for Parkdale-High Park. My background is in service. In 1998, I co-founded a volunteer NGO working internationally with my high school teacher, who's my lifetime mentor, who still cycles to this day, 86 years old, all across Toronto. And we work building infrastructure, tackling shelter and food insecurity in places like Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And this is something that I've been committed to for almost 30 years. And also my background is in youth mentorship and proactive ways for community vitality. So that's me in a nutshell. And I grew up riding my bicycle in the 80s And in the 90s, when there were no bicycle lanes, let alone protected bicycle lanes, I still ride my bicycle. And at the end of the day, what you guys are doing here at Cycle Toronto is exactly the type of leadership that I want to bring to City Hall. It's building communities from the ground up, not this top-down approach. It's collectively mobilizing all of you guys here for one united cause in order to do what's right. And it's all about safety at the end of the day. And we all want to feel safe on our streets for all road users, and particularly for bikers and for pedestrians. So thank you guys so much for having me. I'm told that somebody back there that we're gonna be short, so I'm gonna commit to that. But thank you guys for this meeting, and I will be around if you guys want to chat further.
And after B, I wrote this down. I think it's Debbie. Debbie, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Debbie King. I'm one of your candidates for City Council and your Toronto District School Board trustee for Parkdale-High Park. So happy to be a part of the conversation, to share a bit with you, and more importantly, to hear from you when we get to the table discussions later today. The three guiding words in my platform are equitable, safe, and sustainable. So what that means is that everybody has viable options for getting to the places that they need to and want to go. I'm very aligned with what we heard from Caitlin earlier, just understanding that this looks different for people around our ward. This might be someone choosing to ride to Sunnyside or the tennis courts as part of their health and fitness routine. This might be somebody in Bloor West or Junction choosing to cycle to get their errands done because it's quicker, it's more convenient, and it's a low-carbon option that's good for the environment. Or this might be someone who's among the 37% of folks in our ward who don't own a car. And I'm one of them. In some cases, that's an affordability issue if they have no, low, or a fixed income. And in some cases, they're relying exclusively on cycling to get to appointments, to school, I've seen that, and to work. So in all of these scenarios, they need to be able to do that safely, they need to be able to do that reliably. So there are 5 things that I am committed to doing, and one is making sure that we have protected and connected bike lanes in every neighborhood, and that means filling in gaps in places including South Parkdale. It means that we have good winter maintenance, so those are usable all year round, or as much as we can in this weather. That we have additional infrastructure, such as bike parking and repair stations throughout the ward. Also that riders and residents are part of the discussion, similar to what we heard, that community up kind of approach where we know that when we're planning for implementation, it works well for everybody. And then importantly, the 5th one, more autonomy, so that we can make decisions without that provincial overreach, and you'll actually find a solution to that on my website right now through a petition for a Toronto Charter. Thank you, everybody. So your volume, so then the sound really, Okay, so next is Diana. I'm a long-time Parkdale-High Park resident. I'm also a frontline community worker of the last 11 years, working with people on the streets and in low-income housing. And I'm also better known probably as an advocate. I spent a lot of my career fighting government because they happen to take a lot of our resources away from us as well as our autonomy. So one thing that I've done successfully is fight them for it on multiple fronts. I campaigned against Bill 60, primarily through the housing lens, and am actually permanently banned from the Ontario legislature for my work in voting. We have this kind of provincial overreach. We have the Premier saying that he's going to take control of our municipal roads. I am exactly the kind of person who is going to fight so that we have our autonomy back to decide as communities what kind of infrastructure we want to put in place. Now, with that said, I am a cyclist. I can't afford a car. I'm a renter. I'm somebody in the city who is not currently represented on city council. It is affordable to me, it is healthy, it is economically sustainable, it's environmentally conscious to cycle. And at the same time, we know that bike lanes do protect our right to life. So very much I agreed with the charter challenge put forward by Cycle TO. That said that bike lanes, and it's been misconstrued that we don't have a charter right to bike lanes, but we have a charter right to be safe.
And we know with lure bike lanes, for example, that when Ford is suggesting that we take away the bike lanes or reconfigure them, they're already the status quo. It is a non-issue. And in fact, if we do reconfigure or take away these bike lanes, that will put our lives at risk. That is something that personally I am not willing to do as someone who does actually commute across the city of Toronto, as many of you do. I'll say that I do support fighting the Ford government, I do support the bike lanes, I do support better connectivity across the board, I do support protected bike lanes, because right now we have, what do you call it, just a miscellaneous assemblage of, sometimes it's protected, sometimes it's elevated, sometimes it's paved on the road. We need to have better infrastructure, and we also need to make sure that they're maintained year-round. Thank you so much.
And why it's not sustainable, please ask me about all my videos of like trucks driving through Swansea. And next is Holly. However, I have lived in the ward for 11 years with my husband and my daughter. So I understand and will fight for bike lanes. I understand they're a huge, important part of our city's transportation system. And in particular, protected bike lanes are very important for everybody's safety. And safety is one of the top things on my platform, as well as improved city infrastructure. So when we have safe roads, safe bike lanes, safe sidewalks, everyone can get around and commute and get to where they need to go without having their safety put at risk. So some of the things that I will commit to are, I think we can take a look at our current bike lane infrastructure and make it a little safer. So those flexi posts that have been mentioned a few times, I see them crushed all over the city. I see them kind of bent and tilting towards the road or tilting into the bike lane, and they're not getting fixed. I think we need to fix them. I think we also need to look at putting stronger barriers to give greater protection to the cyclists that are using those. The other thing that I want, and I know this was mentioned, was the maintenance. I think we need to have regular, proper maintenance. So that includes snow removal, removing debris, also making sure that the markings in the lanes are maintained. The other thing that I want to advocate for is tweaking the design so that cars can't drive down them. I've seen that happen several times in the ward, or park in them. So I think if we can do some tweaks to eliminate that access, that will also help with safety, and that way cyclists don't have to jut out onto the road because a car is parked in their bike lane. So I will be an advocate at City Hall for protecting the bike lanes. Also, I'm very sick of the provincial overreach, and I think Toronto needs more autonomy, and we need a City Hall that's going to fight for that and not let the problems come in, take out our bike lanes at the cost of everybody's safety. Last but not least, and jumping way down the alphabet, Vanessa. Vanessa Raponi. 10 years ago, I created a national nonprofit related to equity, diversity, and inclusion. I'm currently working on a documentary about homelessness for my dad's journey experiencing homelessness on the streets of Toronto. And just a couple months ago, I quit my corporate engineering job to run to be your city councillor in my home of Parkdale-High Park. So cycling is obviously interwoven into the culture of this neighborhood and is such an incredibly important issue for us to advocate for. I am a 5-time sprint triathlete finisher, as well as an avid bike share Toronto user. So I understand both sides of the cycling culture, and I can attest that obviously it's a great source of exercise and reliability around the city. Some people mentioned that it's sometimes the fastest way around the city. So I'm very committed into the following points. First of all, protecting physically separated bike lanes. Secondly, implementation of new bike lanes and advocacy for that, subject to community consultation and rigorous cost-benefit assessments. Focusing on harmony across multimodal transportation so that all users of public transit, pedestrians can coexist together. And a primary focus on all seasonal maintenance to ensure that winter is not forgotten. Ultimately, safety is non-negotiable for all users of the road. We need to improve transit access and reliability alongside the cycling infrastructure. And I want to highlight a main point of my campaign, which is intergovernmental relations. I want to ensure we're working very closely between City Council, the MPP and the MP in a nonpartisan way to ensure that all constituents of Parkdale-High Park are advocated for.
Thank you so much for this municipal election that we want to get people thinking about and also candidates thinking about, which is one, upgrading existing bike lanes, two, from like these flexi-posts that we keep mentioning, like impermanent materials to something more permanent. If we can't build new bike lanes everywhere, let's fortify the ones we do have. Two, construction zone safety. We want to make sure that in the city that is constantly growing and building, that we don't forget that we also still need to get around safely. Because bad construction zone safety, frankly, has killed people. And that is bad. Three, bike share expansion. Bike share has this really ambitious, like 2030 growth program, and we at Cycle Toronto support it. We think bike share is great. Another great way for people to cycle, and we want it to really be a priority at the City of Toronto as well. For winter bike lane maintenance, contrary to popular belief, people do bike in the winter. But people will bike less in the winter if floor has a mountain of snow on it for 3 weeks. I'm not talking about anything in particular.
And then finally, high park strategy.
Which is basically, there are two new, there were two proposals for how iPark may be configured, and we agree with option one. We'll talk a little bit more about this in the breakout groups. But yeah, basically for this section, we will be, we'll have different tables with different stations. So I believe we set it up so table number one is over here, which will be led by Dawson. Nice. This will be table number two for construction zone safety, which will be led by, no, not that, it's by Layla. You can really plan a thing and immediately forget the information you put in your head. This is table number, we switch it, no, this is 3.
Doesn't really matter.
Oh, 5. Okay, it doesn't matter. But we'll make this 5, or we'll make this 3, and that's bike share expansion, which is 10. Who is great. This will be priority number 4, winter bike lane maintenance, which is going to be led by Rick, who is already there. So convenient. And finally, Ryan will be leading the discussion on the high park strategy. So, as you can see, it's a really full room. There aren't necessarily seats for everyone to sit down and chat the whole time. But this is a half-hour group discussion section. It's going to work a bit like a city consultation. So you can bounce around tables and join whichever discussion calls to you. And you can go to all the tables and see what the discussions are at. We're going to do 2 minutes to set up, so use this time to grab some of the snacks.